Hello my friends, we are back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the Nikkor 20 1.8S lens. Yes, it is an S lens, which means it's the premium version. There's some things that I want to talk about with this though, because Nikon was good enough to send me this to test out. It was a lens that I was super interested in. It is a specialty lens. I guess we can call it a specialty lens. It's not traditional, not something that everybody's going to have in their bag. But I've had a lot of fun shooting with this. I've shot 3 weddings with this and brought this out so far. So I have a lot to talk about. And a lot of people have actually been asking me to review this because it's a specialty lens, so it's something that they're not just going to hop out and buy without getting some information back, you know, kind of describing it. So I have my thoughts. Now, this lens is a lot of fun to use. The 20mm focal length is super unique, and it activates my brain in a way that made me think of some really creative portraits and some really creative ways to see things. When I look through the viewfinder on the camera and I'm looking through a 20mm, it's super non-traditional, and it kind of jogs the brain in a way that you don't expect. Now I have the 14-30 f4S, and I'm definitely going to compare the two, because I think that is the main question here. Is a lot of people, they want to know, should I just get that zoom lens because it has like a focal range, which includes the 20, or should I go for the prime? This is the widest prime that Nikon offers, and with the Z line, and I just want to start off with the negatives of it, okay? Because there really aren't that many. First thing is no fluorine coating, okay? So I don't know why Nikon would not put fluorine coating on the 20, because the 20 is something that probably less wedding photographers are going to use, and more landscape, astrophotography, people who are going to be outside. Why? I don't understand it. Like, fluorine coating is really nice option. It makes it so you can clean it really easily. I mean, the stuff, dirt and grime, kind of just beads off of it, and it's super easy to clean. But so if you're going to be outside shooting astro, shooting landscape, I mean, you know, your lens is going to fall on the ground, it's going to get dirty, you're going to get moisture, things like that on it. I just don't understand why they wouldn't put that on. So that is a thumbs down for this lens for sure. The other thing is, for video guys, focus breathing. This lens does have some focus breathing. I mean, it just does, straight up. There's nothing else to be said. So if you don't, like, not all videographers care about that type of stuff. If you don't know what focus breathing is, there's a billion YouTube videos on it. Go look it up. But, you know, it's not something that everybody's going to care about if they're doing video, but it's there. So if you do care about that, a lot of people can't live with it. So there is focus breathing with it. That's just one thing of it. So the other thing is, it's not really a negative, it's just how the S lenses work. Is there's a ramped response with the manual focusing. So if you actually move this focus ring very slowly, it's going to just step very slowly in terms of focusing. And if you speed it up, it's going to go faster. Some people just want like a linear response, like with the G lenses. It's literally just as fast as you move it is as fast it's going to focus. When you're really trying to dial it in slowly, it can get very slow. I personally like that, but some people don't. But it's something that if you're going to spend, you know, $1,000 on a lens, you should be aware. It has a ramped focus response. It just does. So if you're looking for something more linear, like I said, and smooth, you can get a G lens and put an adapter on it, and then it literally is what you move is what you get with that focus ring. Those are really the only drawbacks, besides the fact that it's a 20mm in itself. And so if you don't like that focal length and you're not interested in it, then I mean, you shouldn't even be watching this video anyways. So those are the negatives. The positives: it's fun as hell to shoot with. Now, I'm a wedding photographer, so I was using this primarily in the getting ready portions of the day. Small spaces, hotel rooms, don't mind getting close to people, and the clients expect it. So with this lens, if you're shooting with a 20mm, if you're not comfortable getting close to your subject, just, I mean, do not, you have no need for a 20mm lens. This is for photographers who get close. Get right up into people's space. That's just what it is. It's a very wide angle lens, to the point where it's a specialty lens. And so if you're not comfortable actually getting close to the subject, you're not going to have fun shooting with this. It's just not that. When you have people, you got to get up in their space. But if you don't mind that, which I don't, it's really, really freaking fun. You see things in a completely different angle. They're a little weird and kind of interesting and just off. They just make things a little off. You're not normally used to seeing that type of focus, or I'm sorry, that type of focal length when you're looking at photos. People just don't use it. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love the 28, is because it's just not, it's not traditional. Most people, if they're going to go, most people are going to use a 35, but if they're going to go wide, they're going to use a 24. That 28 is kind of in the middle. And this 20 is a specialty lens, so you're not really going to see many people using it. So for certain portions of the wedding day, it can really set your stuff apart. I loved it in hotels. I'm going to say though, I think I tried to use this at a couple ceremonies. Just too wide for me in the way I shoot, because you have to really, I mean, you do have to get in close. If you don't mind it, the photos can be phenomenal and the angle is really, really fun, but at a ceremony, it's just a little too close to get up there. I mean, you become almost the center of attention. And I feel like with the 28, it's just wide enough to where like I can step just far enough back to where I'm not making people a little uncomfortable that close. Especially when you have a couple hundred guests at the wedding. They're like, you know, I wear Hawaiian shirts and people are like, who's this bald guy with tattoos and a Hawaiian shirt, you know, up in everybody's business. So I tried to use it at a couple ceremonies. I felt a little uncomfortable, so I just took it off and swapped and put my 28 back on. But I mean, your photos are going to be interesting, that's for damn sure. Portraits, really fun to use also. I wouldn't break it out and use it. Like if I was just, I have two camera bodies on me, and if I had to make a trek and I wasn't bringing a bag, I'd bring the 28 and the 50, just because that's where I'm at. I probably wouldn't throw this on extra, but if I had the space to bring it, I definitely would bring it and use it for some portraits. Really good for veil shots, because you can get really wide as long as your background isn't too busy. Because if the background's too busy and you're using something too wide with the veil shot, it takes the perspective focus, like what the viewer sees when they look at the photo. It's just too busy. Like with a wide angle lens, you want, and shooting people, you want the clear subject thing that you want the viewer to look at to be right there in focus and visible. But so if you can, you know, angle some really good wide, you know, veil shots with this, it's really, really fun to use. The focus is extremely quick. Wide angle lenses really don't have problems with that, because, you know, everything just, it's just, everything's usually in focus anyways. There's not a lot of hunting back and forth. Super fast, absolutely quiet, 100% quiet with the focusing. You don't hear anything. It's a solid lens. It feels, you know, it's the S version, so it's like the premium one. It's just like all the other lenses, S lenses, weather sealed, very comfortable. You know, throwing this in the bag, or, you know, I'm not worried that it's going to break or something like that. It doesn't feel like you shake it, you can't hear anything. It just feels like a solid one piece of glass. So no drawbacks that way. If, you know, from a manufacturing perspective, I definitely think the price is justified. So am I gonna, chromatic aberration also, very little chromatic aberration. You're not going to get, I mean, there is distortion, that's a separate thing, there is distortion, but you're not going to get away from having distortion with something this wide. It's just part, you know, it's just part of the game. So, but very little chromatic aberration for you astro photographers out there. So, would I recommend this lens? I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to keep this lens. I'm actually going to keep one in my bag, but that's only because I want to do creative portraits with it, and I want to have it so I can do some hotel stuff. Because hotels, if you guys shoot weddings, you know some of these hotels can get extremely cramped, and having something too tight just feels limiting. So I want to have something super wide where I can get into small spaces, I can get close to people while they're getting ready, I can get some unique angles that are kind of off and kind of feel a little bit weird to make, you know, the gallery a little bit more interesting. I'm going to keep it. But really, I'm only going to keep it because it's a 1.8. Okay, I need that extra light as a wedding photographer, because some of these hotel rooms are really dark. But if I didn't need the extra light, I would keep the 14-30 S lens. You know, it's an f4 lens, but I'm telling you, this 14-30 is amazing. It's a freaking beast of a lens. So if you're a landscape photographer or astrophotographer, you don't really need the 1.8. because you're on tripods, you can, deal with slow shutter speeds, you can slow down, you're not dealing with, hyper, moving subjects or different environments. You're just outside, it's either light or dark. I wouldn't get this lens. Even though I love it, I wouldn't get it. I would stick with the 14-30 f4 and just use that, because that lens is a beast. I mean, it's a little bit more expensive. It's like $1,300, but it's insane. It's so good. So if you're not a wedding photographer, or you don't need that 1.8, stick with the 14-30 f4, because you get more of a focal length. Yeah, you lose some of your aperture, you lose some light, but a lot of times you don't need that if you can shoot on a tripod, slow down your shutter speed. If you're shooting people though, or you want a lens to kind of spice things up with your portraits, something super wide, or something to use, hotel rooms, or, to kind of spice things up and look through a different perspective that most viewers really haven't seen. Because I promise you, you shoot with this, even if people don't know photography, they're going to look at that and they're going to be like, wow, that's something I haven't seen before. That's unique. It's really actually a lot of fun to use. So I'm really grateful that Nikon sent me this, because I hadn't considered actually buying it before they sent it. So I'm sold on it, guys, honestly. Unless you're a landscape or astrophotographer who already has the 14-30, or if you're looking between these two lenses, I would say go with the 14-30 f4. Spend a couple $100 extra. Maybe you could even get it comparable if you're looking on used on eBay or something like that. But if you are a wedding photographer, you want creative portraits that are super wide, something that's super easy to focus on, has really good build quality, and the resolution, insane. I mean, I didn't even talk about that. Like at f2, 1.8, it's extremely sharp, but at f2, it enters like extreme resolution. No problems there. I mean, Nikon delivers with their S lenses for sure, but yeah. If you're a wedding photographer, you want to look for something different in, the getting ready portion at these hotel rooms, something extra, I'd say get this lens. Hopefully this was helpful and answered the questions that anybody had asked about this. And if you have any other additional questions, drop in the comments as always. I'm happy to talk back and, answer any questions for you guys. Until the next video, my friends.